This is Messages to Minister coming with another anointed, appointed, divine timing message from the throne room of God. Remember, we ain't got nothing to hide because God gonna provide. That's why he died for us. Faith warriors! What it do? Just know I'm always happy to be here with you. And the title of today's message is Your Environment Can Affect Your Productivity Substantially. Your environment can affect your productivity substantially. Let's get into it. See, a lot of us, we come from harsh backgrounds, faith warriors. We come from environments that where you're pressured to succeed or become a part of what you perceive. I said we come from an environment where you're pressured to succeed, or you either become a part of what you perceive. See, for example, me, I was born in the cult. You know, everybody in my family was gangbangers. You know, and that was just a way of life for them. And it was a lot of pressure not to be a part of that, not to learn what that was about. As many days I was blessed because for the first few years of my life, I was a sheltered child because my mom is an evangelist. So she always did her best to protect me from being a part of what was going on the outside of our home. But you know, eventually you gotta grow up, you gotta learn, you gotta get your feet wet. And you gotta get out there and learn the nitty gritty. But I never really wanted to be a part of a gang because my mom raised me in the church. And even though I didn't always want to be in the church, that's what I was more familiar with before I started learning about the ways of the streets. But as I began to grow up and started, you know, adapting to what I was around, I started to realize that people saw my potential, but they didn't encourage it. And that's the same truth with a lot of us. People see your potential, but they don't encourage it. You know, you get teased a lot when you stand up. People, they bully you a lot, make fun of you when they see that you're not easily persuaded to conform to the ways of the environment. And so as I got older, I started developing my own mindset of promising myself that I'd never let this environment become a part of me. You know. So as I began to venture off into doing things the way I seen fit to do things, I still ended up being influenced by things that was around me. And what made it hard for me not to be influenced by the things that was around me was not only because I was related to that aspect, but it was also because I was different. And when you coming up and you're a young peer pressured child, you feel left out a lot when you're different. See, my uniqueness held me back. And it's the same for a lot of us. Your uniqueness can hold you back. It can hold you back from reaching inside of yourself and being all you can be when everybody else around you being everything that everybody else being. and nobody's pouring into your uniqueness. Nobody's encouraging you to keep going on that road. You have to be kind of like your own self-motivation. And that's hard to do sometimes because that's your environment. See, it wasn't a lot of people like me in my environment. I was one of few people that had my own mind. And it seemed like I clung on to the people that did have their own mind, and that did kind of have their own way, and that didn't want to be a part of what was around. But I was never able to hang around them long enough to follow with them to what they was doing, because they had their own path, and eventually things that they was doing ended up separating me from them. And then the people that did still hold on to the compass of the morality that they had ended up falling victim to being persuaded to join the neighborhood gang. And so that put me under a lot of pressure to fit in. Even though I wasn't gonna conform, I still ended up trying to fit in instead of trying to fit out. And so what ended up happening was I was putting into people more than I was putting into myself, because I wanted people to know that I was down and I'll ride for you as long as I can be accepted. And that hurt my growth in a major way, and that held me back in a major way. And so I always longed for the day to get away from around that. But I was not afforded the opportunity to get away from around it. So I ended up getting in a lot of trouble trying to please my peers by trying to indulge in the character that they made popular, or that was popular amongst everybody. And the more I contributed to everybody else's world, the more mine came crumbling down. And I ended up sabotaging myself a lot to help other people. And so when things wasn't right for me, you know, that's when I found myself by myself. But I still was in that environment. And so it started clicking, like, all this potential that I got, which I did pour into myself here and there, but I never was able to find that footing that made me move in a consistent, strong enough way to prove that I didn't want to be a part of what I was a part of. And so when the Lord opened the door for me to get out of there, I took it. But I had to separate myself in a way to where it hurt a lot of people. But what people didn't realize is how much being around them was hurting me. Because all they cared about was what they could contribute from me, and not how to help me contribute to me. But when I separated, I elevated. That's when I was able to compare and contrast to being by myself as opposed to how I was when I was around everybody else. See, every time I was around everybody else, I went to bed with the thoughts of what was said to me that wasn't right. I went to bed with the things that was fed to me that I didn't like to see in my sight. Things that people did, and how everything that I tried to do was a reflection of the negativity that they projected upon me. And so when I separated, I learned that I couldn't even focus on myself enough to put into myself what God wanted me to see about myself. Because I was so used to being around all this energy that didn't benefit me. See? The more I brought the best out of myself, the worst I saw in other people. Then I hated to admit the jealousy and the envy that I seen in people when they started to see me move in a way they was saying, oh, this boy on his way. See, people showed me the ugliest side of them that they ever had when I started being the best that I ever could be. When people started seeing that I was free to release, that's when they started to feel like I couldn't hold on to him no more. And they wanted to beat me down because God was raising me up. And when I connected with the Lord, that's when I seen the devil in a lot of people. When I started getting in tune with my spirit, didn't nobody want to get near it. See, I was always quick to join everybody with what they had going, but they didn't want to join me with what I had going. So I had to find what was inside myself while I was by myself. I said I had to find what was inside myself while I was by myself. And for the first time, I learned what consistency, true consistency really was. And that was being apart and reaching for the stars. So I found a lot of festivities apart from being around a lot of negativity. So now I'm able to move and breathe at the pace that I need to. And even though sometimes I get along sometimes, I'll be like, well, I'll be wondering how people doing, and I'll be praying for the best in them. But I realize when you put into yourself, then you can better help somebody else. And I realize my standards are extremely high as opposed to people's standards for myself. So no matter what nobody tried to say about my decision to separate from them, I was able to establish tranquility alone. And I was able to get a better relationship with the Lord, apart from having a relationship with people that didn't want me to have nothing. So I had to give up everything I gained from the world to earn everything that I gained spiritually. I had to give up friends. I had to give up money. I had to give up cars. I had to give up material possessions. And there's a lot of that stuff I had lost along the way anyway, but when I got to the point where I could make a choice, I gave it up. And that's what elevated my perception, because I learned how to depend on God for everything that I needed, and not having things just so people could want to be around me, and just so I could be solidified as one of the guys, you know? So when I separated from the environment that was causing me to feel like I was on my way to retirement, that's when I realized how much I could be inspiring. Even the slightest change in your environment can build you up in ways so substantially. You'll start to be able to focus on the motivation that's really deep inside of you that makes you determined to do all the things that you should have already done and conquered. But whatever lessons that you had to endure to get to where you at was all worth it. Because now you got the wisdom to be able to know who's who and who to and who not to. You know, now you can make better choices. You know, even family and friends sometimes could be the worst decision-making advisors that you can have. But my uniqueness brought me to an understanding that there's many people like me in this world. You just got to get in touch with them. And those are the people that I take advice from. People that know exactly what it feels like to be outcasted and to be different. And that really want to be a positive influence in other people's lives as well as their own. And so when I separated, I found a person by myself that cared about the welfare of other people. That was a generous giver that wanted to give to those who wanted to give to themselves, but also will be willing to reciprocate that energy and to be willing to share thoughts without feeling like, if I tell this person this, who they're gonna tell, or to be trusted with information between one another that won't be exploited in a way to try to bring you down or to crush your demeanor. I realized the negative influences that tried to overtake me only made me a better person. And I wanted to be the guy that I really was instead of the guy that they really wanted me to be. So I went through my period of isolation. I lost everything, meaning I even lost jobs, just so I can understand who God wanted me to understand I was. When I got out of them environments and the working environments and always being up under them bosses and always being around co-workers and negative people that just couldn't accept my presence, and I started getting closer to being in the presence of the Lord, then God started showing me the benefit to being with just me and Him. So I just wanted to make this message to motivate and inspire and encourage you. Embrace your loneliness. Find out about yourself the things that you always wanted to know about yourself. When you lose your identity and you never really get to tap into who you really are, then you substantially lose the favor that God wants you to have. And you block your blessings because God is not going to bless you around nobody that want to hinder your progress with the Lord. I'm better with little than all the things that I had when I had much. But I know once God provides me with more, then I'll know what to do, and I'll be able to be trusted to be responsible to steward what it is that He wants me to have, because He knows that I'm going to seek His guidance with whatever it is that I have, and I'm also going to be willing to give it up if He needs me to give it up. I'm better today than I ever been. And I know I owe it all to God for helping me become a better man. So pray for my growth spiritually, and I'm going to pray for your growth spiritually. And stay separate if you're already there. And let God guide the people that He's going to guide in your life. And don't be your own master of your destiny. You know, follow the steps that God wants you to follow towards your destiny. And whatever God put in your heart, receive it. And continue to consume knowledge of those who you see are on a righteous path. And let people say what they say, because they're going to do it. But in this life, all we got is God. And whoever He appoints us to have as a guidance. So no matter how bad people try to make you feel, don't ever let them make you believe that God ain't real. And until we meet again, keep fighting against daily sin. Two's up.